It's no longer saying much to claim that "Don't Tease Me, Nagatoro" crushes Rent-A-Girlfriend on every level imaginable, but I think it still needs to be declared from every channel, pulpit, and mountaintop possible. Nagatoro is better on every conceivable level than Rent-A-Girlfriend. Hi there everyone, Lars here from Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And as we get into Nagatoro's second season, I honestly think it's a valuable exercise to first analyze why hot garbage like Rent-A-Girlfriend exists and break down why Nagatoro's adventures with her senpai are leagues ahead before leaping into a review of Season 2, Episode 1. Rent-A-Girlfriend is the product of seeping oneself in a romantic power fantasy. And bear in mind that when I say power fantasy, I'm not referring to the plethora of isekai, where the MC is granted an OP ability to elevate the character beyond their old pathetic humdrum self. No, in this case, the power fantasy is that stupid bland dude, that any stupid bland dude could somehow be a magnet for the most beautiful and dedicated women imaginable. The only thing Kazuya doesn't get into is the mattress tango with all of them, and that's because it would shatter the fantasy and transcend into the world of smut if you were to do so. Instead, Rent-A-Girlfriend exists within a very large genre of stories found really all over the world, where the reader can put themselves into the bland MC's position and play through fantasies of romance. This is why there are so many love interests and so many bizarre and varied scenarios for romance to blossom and happen, and little to no progress is ever made by the MC, so the readers can always enjoy their favorite girl or guy within this sappy stew of romantic nonsense and impossibility. This is where a story like Please Don't Tease Me, Miss Nagatoro becomes so different and important. Nagatoro tells the tale of an unlikely couple. You're not meant to put yourself in Senpai's shoes. You're meant to sympathize with and identify with him on certain levels, and that's very different than what Kazuya is, because Senpai is really his own character, with a variety of individualized quirks, likes, dislikes, strengths, and weaknesses that don't fit every reader out there, while Kazuya, on the other hand, is just bland trash. And I've read every chapter of the manga, and I can still hardly know what Kazuya is beyond his simping for Mizuhara. And the same goes for all of the girls within Rent-A-Girlfriend as well. They are just eye candy that goes through very little character progression. On the other hand, Nagatoro herself is a complex character full of quirks, likes, dislikes, strengths, weaknesses, which we will get to know even better in this second season. In many ways, comparing the two shows is like comparing apples to oranges, though. Very different beyond the fact that they're both fruit. Nagatoro and Rent-A-Girlfriend are both rom-coms, true, but that's largely where their similarities end. And while there is a place and a purpose and a market for Rent-A-Girlfriend, it is a kind of rom-com that I personally argue needs to step out of the limelight and let far more meaningful romances take the stage. Why is that? Because there is greater fulfillment in reading a well-written love story, and we need more positive and healthy romances in this jaded and confused world. Beyond that, if you really do like the elements within Rent-A-Girlfriend beyond the power fantasy setup, allow me to show you how Nagatoro is superior in every other regard. You want an anime where girls are into fashion? Well, some of the best styles you'll find are what these girls right here are rocking. You want sexy encounters? President has got you covered. You want a flustered protagonist? Senpai is a quivering sheep. You want dates? Senpai actually goes out on more dates than Kazuya, and he's not busting his bank account to do so. You want hilarity? Gamo and Yoshi are on the job. They've got you covered. And what I'm really saying here is that the whole cast is hilarious. When you get down to it, do you want tragic backstories that make the girl vulnerable? Just you wait for this season, because you're going to get some fantastic stuff with Nagatoro. And you want gloriously dumb misunderstandings? Nagatoro has them in spades every episode, every chapter of the manga, and they pay off better than anything in Rent-A-Girlfriend. Seriously, you can bring up almost anything that is considered a plus for Rent-A-Girlfriend, and Nagatoro will somehow trump it. Now, I said at the beginning of this video that that really isn't saying anything new or revolutionary. Most of the anime and manga community already agree on this fact. So why linger on it for so long? My reason for that is to help to illustrate here in this video just how vibrant, deep, and fun Please Don't Tease Me, Miss Nagatoro really is. And in my review for the first season, I brought up how this story takes a very uncomfortable and toxic premise and transforms a bad relationship into a happy and healthy one. It is a very remarkable thing to watch unfold, and when I first began reading the manga, I just started doing it to tear into this horrible story because it hit all of my negative buttons. But then it absolutely won me over by having deep characters placed in ridiculous settings that allowed them to come to an understanding with one another, learn to communicate, and then slowly fall for each other for the right reasons. And I've reread all the chapters that should be covered in this second season of Nagatoro, and I was reminded all over again just how great this romantic comedy is. In this season, we should see Senpai really grow and show a backbone. He will acquire new skills and knowledge that will help him to do things outside of his comfort zone and better understand Nagatoro herself. And we should see Nagatoro likewise confront some of her own weaknesses and insecurities born out of past events. And thanks to Senpai, she finds the purpose and the motivation to confront these problems head on and begin to overcome them. Many of the smaller details in character design, conversation, and running jokes will all start coming together to take the plot further. From two teens caught in a series of eyebrow-raising misunderstandings and scenarios, for them to become two friends supporting each other, to finally two teens falling in love. That is what we should expect to see in this second season. So with all that stated, let's review and analyze this newest episode. Let's see how it compares to the manga and kind of a little bit with the first season of the anime, since they have changed studios. And then let's see if there's any writing insight that we novice authors can mine from this newest episode. So first off, yes, we have a new studio taking over the production of the anime. It's not as grievously bad as One Punch Man Season 2, which was a definite drop in quality. But you can tell that there's not quite as much liveliness in this episode as compared to the previous 13 episodes of Nagatoro that we got. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a letdown, but oh well. The story is continuing, and I am very happy for that, and this is something that really can be overcome in a show where the budget's not necessarily there for all of the fantastic animation that we would like to get. We definitely saw that with Vermilion Gold, where it's amazing what they did with the limited budget that they had, and it's clear that they were on a limited budget, but the story is still what mattered most, and they communicated the story very well. We get the exact same thing happening here with this first episode of Nagatoro Season 2, The Second Attack, because, well, we're diving already pretty deep again into the story and setting again that foundation. And what I found really interesting with this particular episode is that this was an amalgamation of various little one-off chapters throughout the next 30 to 35 chapters of the manga itself. The events right here actually happened out of order, but instead these moments are actually all brought together to once again reestablish for the audience what the relationship is between Senpai and Nagatoro. It's clear that there's flirting going on here, there's the beginnings of a crush, but largely this is a situation in which a girl is teasing a boy. But by now, they have seriously upgraded from the more toxic version of their relationship, which was at the beginning of Season 1, and here at the beginning of Season 2, we have established that they have graduated beyond that now, and they have actually become good friends. While there's still plenty of misunderstandings, there is now a healthy line of communication between Senpai and Nagatoro, though once again still with plenty of misunderstandings, such as Nagatoro misreading that Senpai might actually reenact the ridiculously horrible manga that they were both reading, as well as Senpai accidentally getting a boob grab, which, yes, that stuff can happen. I know it happens way too often in anime, but there are situations. Guys gotta be careful when guys go in for a hug, just gonna say. And then, of course, we get the little sushi bar scene, which was really funny. I think it actually works a little bit better in the manga. The manga paced it probably better than it was in the anime. And this is again because the anime was taking 4 different chapters and kind of cramming them all into one go, so things were sped up really fast. That means that some of the humorous timing wasn't exactly there as it should have been. And so this is already something that we as novice authors can already take and learn from this particular episode, with what it might not do quite as well as the manga does. And this is something to actually bear in mind. Timing is everything when setting up humor. It's all about setting up the scenario, then putting in the right kind of words or the right kind of scenario in order then to get the right punchline and then create the effect. Now then, readers are going to understand humor at their own pace, but if you're trying to establish humor within the story, you also need to know how you want your characters to react to a scenario or to a one-liner or to a joke in order then to bring out the fullness of those emotions or those reactions that you're looking for. And that's again something that I think the manga did slightly better than the anime here within this particular episode. But one thing that this episode definitely did do, which is very, very good, is that it firmly established where we are in the story. Now, many times you'll see that an anime is going to use its first episode of season 2 to basically recap everything that happened in order to bring people up to speed. That isn't a good way of telling a story. Instead, what you want to do is you want the plot to continue on with enough callbacks and memories to what happened in the previous installment in order to help people get caught up with where they should be. There's a lot of series that do that fantastically well, where there's like, well, we're moving on to the next thing. Characters will have conversations about what happened in the past, such as Nagatoro and her friends talking about how they have got so much money from the cultural festival, about all the little cat icons that they sold to try to get people to come and see Senpai's paintings and to beat the president. That was really good. And also just some of the little things that have been shared back and forth by Nagatoro and by Senpai, which is all very natural. And it's not like, hey, do you remember back on episode 3 when we did this? No, that's annoying. You don't want that to happen, and you especially don't want to do that in your book. You want the plot to continue on with enough hints and reminders at the beginning to let people know this is the main stuff that happened, but we're already moving on. It's time to go on to the next big thing. So really, this first episode of season 2 was a setup episode. This was to help us get reoriented with where we are and firmly establish that within this relationship of teasing and misunderstandings between Nagatoro and her senpai, that the relationship has indeed progressed. They are now firmly friends. And from this point on, because now we know that senpai is beginning to reciprocate some of that blushing and some of that crushing, we now know that we are firmly set on the path for these two teens to start falling in love with each other. And that is the right kind of stuff that we want to see now going forward. So what I'm excited for is I'm excited for getting to the zoo arc, because in the manga that should be the next big storyline that we slide on into, and that is going to be honestly a whole lot of fun. If you're just an anime only, I'm not going to spoil it, but for those of you who have read the manga, you know what we're getting into. And this, I think, while it's not necessarily a huge moment for these two teens, it is a really special and meaningful one. So let's buckle up for that particular ride, and I will see you guys again after episode 2 of Nagatoro. And if you're looking for more writing advice, if you are a novice author out there, then please feel free to check our other videos out here on Camille's Harem. You can also head on over to our podcast, Camille's Harem, found on Podbean, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, the works. We have writing exercises for you to check out over at our Pinterest page, and of course, we would love for you to join our ever-growing community of novice authors. And if you would like to support our channel and the work that we're doing here, please feel free to comment, like, subscribe, but even more importantly, check out the books that we've published. Links for our books are down in the description below. That would help us out a lot. But thank you for joining us on this adventure that we call writing, and until the next teasing episode of Miss Nagatoro, y'all, tschüss.